Let's move on now to the AFC South in our division preview for the 2023 season, where Ryan and I, we're going to break down each team's playoff chances and who we think is going to win the division at the end of the episode. But before we do that, if you have not already, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to get notified when we create new content. Ryan and I, we are doing a division breakdown for every single division and who we think is going to win. Also, throughout the regular season, we will be doing weekly prediction videos for every single NFL game. So if you want to see the prediction videos for your team, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to get notified. Is the easiest way. And Ryan, let's get into it here.
Let's do it.
Before we get into the AFC South, we're just saying it's like far and away, this is the weakest division in the AFC.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We are confident two teams will not make the playoffs. Pretty sure on a third.
Yeah.
But I think it just goes to show how freaking stacked the AFC is. Because these next division, the other AFC divisions that we do, I am not sure how we're going to pick, because I can see technically any of those teams winning the division.
Oh yeah,
so,
and that to me, I think this is a normal division. I think in the NFL, right? You have one team that's really good. You have one team that's going to be a borderline playoff team, and then maybe two teams that are rebuilding. In this case, they both have a rookie quarterback. Both have just a rebuilding offensive line. Both have new head coaches. So let's get started here with the Houston Texans and just kind of go through the big addition, CJ Stroud in the draft, Will Anderson, back-to-back picks with a hell of a move there, going up from, I think, 12 to 3 with the Arizona Cardinals, and then adding D'Amico Ryans as well. But I really like what they've done this offseason. I think they help solidify that offensive line. Laramie Tunsil, Kenyon Green has to play better. He literally, I don't think, could play worse. Mm-hmm. And I like Tank Dell. John Mechie's coming back. That's a really great story to follow. So I like what the Houston Texans have, and I think they have the building blocks to become a successful franchise in the future. I just don't think those pieces are quite put together yet.
Yeah, with everything coming in, I mean, I would think like a 4 or 5 win season, I think, is doable, and that would be a good season. This is they're finally out of the Deshaun Watson fiasco, and brand new chapter, brand new franchise, and so they're going to be a fun team to watch. It's fun at this point in the rebuilds where it's like a bunch of young talent, and you go see them grow. Last year is just tough to watch, where you see the QB carousel. There's not really any rookies that are like super exciting to watch. They didn't, and so this will be a fun time. And this honestly can kind of be the same with the Colts. However, the Colts, I think, potentially have a little bit more optimism to be better, only just because of the freakish nature of Anthony Richardson and the success that Shane Steichen had with Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. I think this offense could be very similar. The overall personnel is different on the offensive side for the Colts than it is for the Eagles. There's a huge caveat to that, and once the whole Jonathan Taylor situation gets figured out. Because there's a big difference.
Feeling it's going to get figured out.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't blame the running backs, especially now, for being like, hey, this is already a long year for everybody, especially me.
Yeah.
And we all know how short the lifespans are. So I'd like to try and take some extra rest. It's interesting, the extra drama that's coming along with that, but I think that's neither here nor there, and nor we probably don't even know the whole story or the whole conversation. So that'll definitely be something to keep an eye on. I agree. I don't think that can hold out to that won't hold out to the start of the season. Unlike maybe the Josh Jacobs situation with the Raiders, I think that's a little bit more unique, and maybe a little bit more permanent. But overall, for the Colts, it's going to be something similar with the Texans. I mean, they're both almost one and the same. Young quarterbacks, first-time head coach. It'll just kind of be a see what we got kind of year. It'll be interesting, too, to watch Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce and Josh Jones as well, and how they mesh with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, the other thing, too, with the Colts is they had a top 10 defense last year. And I know they lost Stephon Gilmore, but they did go out. They got Darius Rush and Julius Brents from Kansas State. I really like both of those additions in the secondary. Very long, very physical corners. And I think this defense could definitely be top 10 again. this offensive line hopefully will rebound. And I think you start implementing that Shane Steichen system and kind of what he was able to do with Jalen Hurts in the first couple years that he was a starter in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And like you could convince me that maybe this team wins 7 or 8 games, right? Like maybe slightly below 500 just because Anthony Richardson is a freak athlete, like you said. This offense, they're going to win games 24-20, right? Like, and so that to me is kind of the recipe for the Colts there.
Yeah.
But I also think first-year head coach, rookie quarterback, right? Especially not just rookie quarterback, but an extremely talented rookie quarterback, but is very raw, right?
Yeah.
Needs help mechanically and all that. So,
yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on, though, to the Tennessee Titans here. So the Tennessee Titans, for all of the offseason, we have kind of been saying they're trying to do this pseudo rebuild, right? You go out, you get Will Levis in the draft. Peter Skoronski helped solidify that offensive line. And then they go out and get DeAndre Hopkins, and that puts them in like this odd spot, right, where they're kind of in the midst of bringing in a new wave of talent, but then they're going to inject DeAndre Hopkins there into the middle of that. And I kind of saw a meme, and it was basically this guy in a shelter with a bunch of support poles sticking down, and there's a tornado ripping off the roof, and this guy is just holding on to the pole, and the caption was DeAndre Hopkins saving the Titans from a rebuild, right? Just hanging on for dear life. And so to me, that is kind of how I picture it. You already saw the highlight of him mossing somebody in practice, and then he retweeted it saying that, yeah, but I don't practice. And so that's kind of to me, that they're in such a weird spot that it's kind of hard to predict what I really think they're going to be able to do this year.
Well, yeah, it puts the Titans, to me, I think, in now a more legitimate conversation to be a playoff contender, just because going in pre-DeAndre Hopkins, it was Treylon Burks, and then really that was it.
Yeah.
And so they have the tight end whose name I can't pronounce. And it's not.
He's from Maryland.
Oh, yeah. No, if you're a fan of the channel, it's definitely my fault.
Chigoziem Okonkwo, I think, is his name.
That's how I would have pronounced it. But then Ryan Tannehill's getting 35. Derrick Henry is getting close to 30 if he's not already 30. It's just the overall lifespan of this generation of Titans is getting towards the end of its life cycle. And adding Hopkins in there is one last dash, I think, because Tannehill, this is his last year for sure before they move on to Will Levis or Malik Willis. We'll have to see. I believe it will probably be Levis.
It does remind me a little bit of them adding Julio Jones there kind of at the end of his career, and that was just kind of a failed experiment. Julio Jones, I think, was a little bit older and had some rougher miles on him. But
yeah, he's a little bit older and definitely had a little more injury history than DeAndre Hopkins. And so, honestly, the only thing I'm not trying to make a joke. The only thing that I can really remember Hopkins-wise missing games was his suspension. His PED.
Yeah, he tore his ACL the year before.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, that's kind of a big deal too. But but anyways, one thing also though that's a saving grace and a consistent saving grace for Tennessee. The only reason why last year's game against Jacksonville at the end of the season mattered was Mike Vrabel coaching this defense. They have a hugely underrated defense when it just comes to the skills of the players. But the defense is always top 5. They always got the quarterback. This defense will get after teams, and will keep them in games. So with all that, and then with the Hopkins, it's tough for me not to see them contending for the playoff spot as we get closer to the end of the year. They're not just going to be blown out from the beginning of the season.
No, I agree with that. But let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who won the division last year, is the betting favorite to win the division again. Not only do I think that they will win the division, a little spoiler there for the last segment, but they're clearly the best team in the division, in my opinion. They had the best offense last year, and then they come back, they add Calvin Ridley back into the mix, who's having a really nice training camp from what we've read. And this defense should be getting better. Hopefully Trayvon Walker takes another step forward, right? So this is a scary team down in Jacksonville. Yeah. And I think the rest of the AFC needs to be kind of put on notice.
Yeah. Now, there's not too many flaws on this offensive side of the ball. You maybe make an argument that there's going to be some questions on the offensive line just with Cam Robinson's suspension. But even then, though, it's feeling still very confident about the prospects of the offense as a whole. And the defense, I think, is young and is only going to keep getting better. So, and then that to me is going to kind of lead into my prediction. It's just that I think Jacksonville's going to win this division. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to keep taking those steps forward that we saw at the end of last season.
Yeah.
He came alive in the second half and led that team to the playoffs. And then now, as you mentioned, adding Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram now, I think he got a contract extension and is a legitimate tight end option like he always was. But so going to keep growing that relationship with him. Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, like the whole offensive side of the ball, Travis Etienne, and then you've got Tank Bigsby as well. It's just phenomenal, top to bottom.
Yeah, no, and it was weird. Like in the middle of last season, it was like a switch flipped in Trevor Lawrence's head. It just like all of a sudden, the NFL style game made sense. He was making all the right reads, making all the right throws, and so that to me, he's the best quarterback in that division. He has the most high-powered offense, and he has a young defense that should be improving. And that, to me, is a recipe for success.
Yeah.
So
the big question for me is what we already kind of touched on when it comes to who's going to make the playoff is Tennessee. Yeah. And Tennessee is one. It's honestly, it's like Texans and Colts are the 15th, 16th best teams in the AFC. And then it is a tight race between 14 and 6. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of good teams that don't make the playoffs this year from the AFC. It's only 7 can make it. And Tennessee could make it. I think that they are on the outside looking in, personally. But it's possible. I think it's possible. So maybe they could win the division. We could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I don't see them winning the division. I definitely think, like you said, that 14-6 range is going to be extremely tight. And so I'm looking forward to it. I definitely think Tennessee can compete with those teams. I do think they're in a similar boat to New England, where it's like I think they're going to be good enough to compete with those teams, but they're not going to be good enough to win.
Yeah.
So I think that is going to wrap up this episode of the Tracy Take. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win the AFC South in 2023. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.